Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here to talk about some famously bad adaptations that I really love. So these are going to be movie adaptations. I think they're all movies. Okay, not all movies, but like visual adaptations of books or plays or other kinds of stories that are pretty widely disliked or hated. This is obviously going to be in my perspective. So from what I have seen, it seems like a lot of people really don't like these or hate these, and I just happen to love them. I might talk a little bit about why I think people don't like them, or like if I acknowledge, you know, some things are not as great, but like overall, this is just going to be me enjoying talking about things I love. And also I want to make it clear that this is not like, these are trash and I love them anyway. These are movies or adaptations that I think actually do have some value to them. Like, if we can talk about objective quality, you know, like I do think there are things that they do really well. So this is just me being defensive about things I love, and I'm excited about it. So let's just jump right in. The first movie I'm going to talk about is the 2004 Phantom of the Opera movie with Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum. I love this movie. This was my first introduction really to the story of Phantom of the Opera. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure this was like the first time I encountered that story, and it just like really captured my imagination. I remember watching like clips on YouTube of this movie before I was able to watch the whole movie. I love the music. I love like the setting. I think the sets of this movie were done really well. I liked the costumes. I also think the casting was done really well. Like, I know people like to make fun of Gerard Butler's singing voice, and I get it. He's like definitely not a Broadway trained actor or anything, but I think for the tone of the movie and for what they were going for, like, I don't know. I think he did like a good job. I think Emmy Rossum was fantastic. I hate Raoul as a character, but I think that Patrick Wilson did a really good job with him. And yeah, I just think like aesthetically and emotionally, this book really captured the story. Although, as I said, this was the first time I encountered the story, so like maybe my expectations weren't in part set by this movie, but I really do think that this captures like some of the drama, the gothic feeling, the really intense romance. I just think it captures the obsessive, I guess, feeling and like the gothicness and everything like of the original story or of the musical version. So yeah, I have other versions of the story I love. I have now read the novel, which I enjoyed, and I do really love the stage production. I acknowledge that this movie is probably not the best picture of like the story or even just the musical adaptation, but I really love it. And okay, next is Into the Woods. So this movie is like relatively new. It feels like it was. I'm sure it was like 7 years ago or something, and it just feels like it was recent. But yeah, so this is another case where this was my first encounter with the Into the Woods musical, was this movie musical. This is one where I can really understand that if you know the stage show and really love the stage show and then come into this movie, I can really get why you would be disappointed because they change things. They change a couple of pretty big things, but because I was going into this story as my first experience, it didn't bother me. It didn't feel like they cut things or changed things. And I really love it. I think that the camera work is really good. I think the cast for this movie is really stellar. There's a few in particular, like I love Meryl Streep as the witch. I really think Emily Blunt did a fantastic job as the baker's wife. I think the child actors were really good. I thought Chris Pine as one of the princes was great. I liked Rapunzel and her prince. I will be putting up their names on screen, hopefully, because I feel bad I can't remember all of their names. But I thought the casting was stellar for this movie, and I thought the music was really well done as well. I think it was kind of a good blend of more like traditionally trained musical theater voices with, you know, big stars like Meryl Streep, who is not, as far as I know, a trained singer, but I think she really like captured the feeling of the music really well. One of the things that really bugs me about the response to this movie is like there were lots of critics. Like, critics hated this movie too. It wasn't just audiences. And I still remember being so pissed off because one of the critics actually said in their review to just leave after the first half of this movie. Like, don't bother staying. And if you guys have seen this or the show, you know there's kind of a big switch between Act 1 and Act 2. I can't believe, like, you're a critic, you're somebody who, like, your job is to like view movies and talk about movies, and you are telling people to leave. Like, I get that this was supposed to be probably like a flippant offhand comment, but I just can't get over the fact that he was actually recommending people like skip half of the movie. Like, that is just so weird to me, and like not for a reason where like, oh, it was like a really offensive movie, or, you know, like I could understand that if he was like, you know, don't sit through this, but just skipping a movie because he didn't like it, I was like, that's a choice, okay. So that was annoying, but what really bothers me about the critical response to this movie is a lot of the people who said, for example, that it was too depressing, they are the same people who talk shit about musical theater artists because musicals have no depth and they're always just like happy chorus girls or whatever the stereotypes are nowadays for like musical theater. So it really irritates me. It's like there's no way to win. So I guess they don't like musicals because there's not enough depth for them. But then if you do have some more bittersweet moments, or you know, like some of the musicals, like I don't know if you guys have seen a musical lately, some of them are very dark or very serious or deal with really intense themes. So it's like they want that from musicals, but then if you do that, they're like, no, not that. We want something happy. What are you doing? So yeah, I really hate that. This was like kind of a side rant. I really think that Into the Woods as a movie is really great. It's one of my favorite movies, honestly. I know a lot of people hate it, critics and audiences alike, but I really do think that it's a very compelling story. I think thematically it's very interesting. Again, I understand how if you are familiar with the stage show, because I did eventually see the stage show after seeing this movie, like several years after, so I get that it's very different, and I'm sure if I had known and loved the stage show, I probably would have been disappointed with the movie too, but seeing it as itself, I think it's a really well done movie. Okay, next is My Fair Lady. So like the version with Audrey Hepburn. Yeah, I love this. This is one where I think it's pretty like popular with people, but I think critically it's not considered a very good movie. But I think Audrey Hepburn did a great job in it. I think Rex Harrison is good in it. And this is also just like a cozy movie for me, like for some reason. I think probably because I love Audrey Hepburn movies anyways, so like I have that kind of factor in it. But yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I do think like, yeah, George Bernard Shaw would hate what was done to his play in this movie. So story-wise, there are some issues with it that I acknowledge, but this is more of like a, I just have fun with this movie. And I also have to speak up and defend Audrey Hepburn because a lot of people at the time really didn't like this movie because they thought that Julie Andrews got cheated out of this role because she was the one playing Eliza Doolittle in Broadway and on the West End. And then they didn't cast her. They cast Audrey Hepburn in the movie. And a lot of people were angry about that, and they were like, Audrey Hepburn didn't even do her own singing, which is for the most part true, but that actually wasn't Audrey Hepburn's decision, and I actually feel really bad for her because she was under the impression that she would be singing the whole movie. She took all these lessons, she did some recordings, and then at the last minute they were like, oh yeah, we're dubbing your voice. With Marni Nixon, who like, poor Marni Nixon, that was kind of one of her specialties for a while, was being the singing voice for like film actresses who were not as like Broadway trained or West End trained. So anyway, like I just wanted to mention that because I feel really bad for Audrey Hepburn. From everything I've heard, Julie Andrews was fantastic, and I'm sure she would have been great in the movie. But I just wanted to like put that out there that like it wasn't like Audrey Hepburn like deliberately stole this role from her and then cheated at the singing part. She also did not know this was going to happen. Next I have a pretty recent movie, and that is Murder on the Orient Express, the remake one with Kenneth Branagh. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I have not read the original Agatha Christie novel, and I have only seen like bits and pieces of the David Suchet, is it a miniseries, I think, or TV show? I don't know, like, but that's kind of acknowledged as like one of the definitive adaptations of Agatha Christie's Poirot novels. And like, I know that from what I remember, I think a lot of the reason people didn't like this new one is they didn't think Kenneth Branagh did as good a job as Poirot. I don't know, and I don't remember what else they said about the movie that they didn't like, but I really enjoyed it. Again, this is an example of like, I don't have a strong connection to the source material. Like I hadn't ever read or watched the other versions. Like I hadn't read the original or watched the other versions. So I was kind of primed to like take this movie for what it is. I think one of the reasons people were dissatisfied with Kenneth Branagh's Poirot is that he didn't have the like iconic mustache that David Suchet did. Kenneth Branagh actually has like the facial hair that is more like accurate to the book or to the books. So just, I don't know, like a lot of people were mad about the mustache, and from what I can tell, this version is actually closer to what the character had in the books. But anyway, yeah, I don't have a lot to like say about this movie, like, because I don't know as much about why people didn't like it. But I thought this was an example of like a movie where there's a ton of big actors, and like I feel like a lot of times that can end up creating a movie that is not as well done. Like basically the entire cast is like big name actors, but I thought pretty much everyone did a good job. But yeah, I found the story compelling. I thought the acting was really good, so I enjoyed this movie. I've actually watched it a few times, and I feel like that's a real point in a mystery movie's or like books favor is when you can like return to it and still enjoy it. Like it doesn't all depend on you not knowing what's going to happen at the end. And I think actually the first time, I think when I watched this, I did know the solution, but I wasn't sure if they were going to keep that or like change it for the movie. Yeah, I just think this is a really good movie. Definitely a very like melancholy one. But I just find it a very satisfying story. I just like enjoy it as a movie. I think it's really well done. Next I have a miniseries, and that is Jonathan Strange and Mr Norrell. This is an adaptation of the Susanna Clarke novel, which I actually have next to me. I'm not gonna pull it out though, because it's giant. But I really love that book. I know that's a very, very polarizing book, but I happen to really love it. And also apparently this is BBC's lowest rated miniseries that they have ever done, which makes me sad because I also really enjoyed the adaptation. I think they really captured the tone of the story. Like it's like a 1,000-page book, so obviously they're gonna have to cut things. But I think the adaptation did a good job. I thought they did a good job with the characters. Again, I think the cast was really good. I do have some issues with the way I feel like they really cheated Stephen's character out of being like as great as he was in the novel, because I really loved him in the novel, and in this series he's kind of frustrating. And I don't love how it kind of feels like they were trying to give more time to the female characters, so they took away some of the complexity of like the only black character. Like not a great decision there. So that's really frustrating. And I also think that they didn't explain quite as many things as they should have. Like I could follow this show because I had read the original novel, but I was watching it with people who hadn't, and they were very confused sometimes, and I had to like explain things and be like, yeah, they don't really tell you this, but in the novel this is what happens. So this, like, I can definitely acknowledge that there are like issues with the way they did this series, but it is one that I enjoy, and it's definitely one where I don't feel it deserves as low ratings as it tends to get. Yeah, like the fact that it's like the lowest rated BBC miniseries, or at least it was when I read that article about it, I think that's a real shame. Next I have a classic movie, and that is the black and white version of Pride and Prejudice. I don't remember what year this is, but it's with Greer Garson and Laurence Olivier, and this is, I feel like, a great example of how I can love adaptations that are very different from the original if they keep the core elements of the original, like if they keep the tone, I think. I think tone is really important for me with adaptations, because there are quite a few popular adaptations that I really don't like, and one of the big reasons is that they seemed to completely ignore what made the source material work, like what made it really good. And so in this black and white version, there are so many changes. Like it's way shorter, they cut out a lot, they add scenes, they change characterizations, like they changed the setting, like the time period this is set in, so that they could reuse Gone with the Wind costumes. Like it's a lot, and I totally get why people would not like this movie. But it just really works for me, and I think part of that is because, again, the tone. I feel like it kept the humor and the social commentary of the original, and I also think that Greer Garson and Laurence Olivier just play off of each other so beautifully that I forgive a lot of things about this adaptation. Like, yeah, I just like really enjoy this one, and this is one of the ones where like I find it most understandable that people didn't enjoy it, because like it is so different from the source material, and honestly I'm a little surprised that it works for me as well as it does, but I really do think it's because of the tone and the fact that they kept what makes the original special, or like a lot of things that make it special, which is like the play between Darcy and Elizabeth. Like you have to like Darcy and Elizabeth. If you don't, I feel like it's a failed adaptation, and this one I really do like them. Also, one or two of the scenes that they add, it's like, yes, that's not in the book, but I kind of love it anyway. Like one of the ones, like the archery scene where Elizabeth is like sassing Caroline Bingley to her face. I just adore it, and it seems very in character for her too. Okay, and finally, this might be, I was gonna say this might be one of the most unpopular opinions, but I don't know if that's true. It just feels like it is, because a lot of people I follow really hate this movie. But that is the live-action Beauty and the Beast adaptation. I know, shocking. Yeah, like I've said, I feel like a lot of people that I follow or know of really don't like this one, and I also, like, I know that there's very strong opinions about, like, the remaking animated movies thing that Disney is doing. I personally don't have, like, a general stance on it. Like, there are some that I like and some that I don't. I don't really have, like a yes, I'm in favor of this or I'm against this in principle. Like, as long as they keep doing original movies too, I don't really, like, it doesn't really bother me. And I also have not seen a lot of their live action adaptations. The only ones I've seen are this one and Cinderella, which I did not enjoy. But anyway, we're talking about this one. So I acknowledge that this is like essentially rehashing the animated one, and I will always love the animated one. but I love this one too. And I love them for different reasons. Like, I don't think you have to like pick one adaptation or the other as like the definitive one that you enjoy. It's like you can enjoy multiple ones, and that's how I feel about this. Like, I really liked Emma Watson in this. I really liked Dan Stevens in this. I really liked the costumes and the design. People make fun of the, like, essentially her big yellow gown that's supposed to be so beautiful looks like a prom dress, and I agree, it kind of does. But it didn't bother me, for one thing, because I really like that Emma Watson told the director and the costumer that she was not going to wear, I think she said she wasn't going to wear a corset, and she wouldn't let them CGI her waist, which they did in the Cinderella live action movie, and I really hate that. It's like, Disney, you should have learned by now how important it is, the body image that you communicate, or like the ideal bodies that you communicate to like young girls who like are one of the major target audiences for these movies. So yeah, I really hate that they did that in the Cinderella live action one. So I really like in Beauty and the Beast that they didn't do that. Like, yes, I would have liked the dress to be prettier, but the fact that they did not CGI Emma Watson's tiny waist to make it look even tinier, I do like that. So that is one of the, like, that outweighs some of the costume considerations for me. This is another adaptation where they add or change things, and some of it I didn't love. Some of it I did. Like, they actually explained things in this movie, which I appreciate. And I actually really enjoyed the songs that they added, which is another very unpopular opinion. And also, I'm finding, like, a lot of times people don't like the, they don't like the singing voices of the, like, Hollywood actors that they cast, or I know Emma Watson is British, so she's not, like, technically a Hollywood actress, but you know what I mean. I feel like a lot of times people really don't like the singing voices that they have, and while I would love if live theater, like musical theater actors actually got cast more in like mainstream movie adaptations, I really would love that. I hope that does happen, but I personally would prefer a decent singing voice, but somebody who I really think they act well and I like their acting style, to somebody who has more of a like traditional sound, but I don't like their acting as much, or I don't think they play off the other actors as well. Like, I'm just realizing that that is something, like a preference that I have that I know people differ on. So some of this is definitely personal preference. But yeah, I just really enjoy this movie. I think, again, I've said this for I think all of these basically, but I really like the cast. I think it's really well cast. I like the music they added. I liked that, like, this movie gives me different things than the original one. So I'm not saying this replaces the animated one, and I feel like a lot of people were offended because they felt like this was an attempted replacement of that animated movie. It's like, you can love both. I love both. Yeah, so anyway, this is, like I said, this is probably one of the more unpopular opinions on this list, but I just really love this movie. Yeah, I also just love Emma Watson and Dan Stevens, so this is like personally, this is a really good combination for me as well. But yeah, I love this movie. I just am rambling at this point, but I enjoy it. Okay, everybody, so those are some famously bad or famously unpopular adaptations that I love. Yeah, I just really enjoy these. In a lot of cases, I can understand why people don't like them, but I really do love them, and I really do think that they have like things that they do well that I feel like people don't always acknowledge. Yeah, so anyway, please comment down below and let me know if you also love any of these movies. I would love to hear that. Please show me that I'm not alone in enjoying these. And also let me know one unpopular adaptation, like at least you perceive it to be unpopular, that you really love. I would love to hear that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read, or the next adaptation you watch. Bye!